Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are painting Delphinium. It is such a beautiful flower. It's similar in shape to some of the ones we've done before, but it has a few unique characteristics. So let's get into it. So Delphinium grow together on a long stem, kind of like snapdragon. So we're going to start by painting these flowers that are really similar to almost a peony in a lot of ways. We're just doing these really nice soft strokes. They don't have a very obvious number of petals, so we can do these really big, light, fluffy looking petals all the way around a large white center space. And I'm layering some of them are pointed to the left, some of them are pointed to the right, and we're keeping the biggest petals, the biggest flowers, and more bunched together towards the bottom because it's going to taper off as we go up to the top. The petals and the flowers will get smaller and then they will become more bud-shaped as we get to the top as well. So I'm keeping my wash of pink really light so that I can go back in while the flowers are still wet and add a highly concentrated pink to those centers. This just helps add variety and dimension to our little flower buds. And at this point, I don't want it to get any more full before I start tapering off towards the top. And so I'm adding a little bit more fullness towards the bottom so that I can keep that fullness and add a little bit more depth to the painting. So these little flower whooshies I do at the bottom are kind of like flowers that are underneath our main group right there. And so then as we go towards the top, the buds are getting smaller, but also if you look at a reference picture of a delphinium, the flowers are kind of pointing down. And so especially as you go upward, as the flowers are tapering off, getting less and less, getting smaller, they start pointing downward. So I'm painting these little downward, like U shapes, downward, upside down heart kind of shapes as I get farther and farther up the stem. And I'm just keeping the stem in mind where I'm going to put that long stem right in the middle, and then just kind of staggering where these little buds are starting to go and keeping this teardrop shape pointed at an angle downward. So I'm also making sure to leave room for like the green type of buds, the little buds that haven't blossomed any pink blooms yet. And so I don't want too many of the pink blossoms, just trying to get a little bit here and there as it tapers upward. So now for the greenery, I'm grabbing a really yellow-green, a really bright green color. And what I did is I mixed my typical green, sap green, with just a lot of Winsor yellow to get this really nice, bright, vibrant color. And this green helps stand out against this pink so well. So I made my base stem, I did some leaves, and now I'm going through really lightly with the very tip of my brush, and I'm creating those little stems that come off of the delphinium blossoms that meet together at the main stem. So pretty much anywhere where there is white space and it's not in the middle of a flower, I'm trying to put a little bit of green. And as we go up to the top, some of our flowers will still be a little bit wet, and it's okay to have some of those bleeding moments. I don't want too many, so I'm trying to be careful not to touch too many of the blossoms. I want them to stay that nice vibrant pink, but I love a good bleeding moment, so I'm definitely touching lots of those wet flowers, and that is totally fine with me. And for these little green buds, I'm really just using the shape of my brush and putting light pressure down to create these really organic and natural looking shapes. So just have fun with it, and remember, if you're feeling nervous about making a stroke, make lighter, smaller strokes because you can always go back and add more if you need to. So now we are going to do the centers of our delphinium, and in my reference picture with these beautiful pink flowery delphinium, they really looked like peonies or roses. They had these beautiful yellow stamen right in the center, and so I took this deep yellow gold color and I'm just making those tiny little dots that are at the end of the stamen, and then making really thin, small lines with the tip of my brush for the bulk of the stamen, for the stamen line. And remember, you can do more dots to signify more of that middle stamen, and then less lines, because the lines coming down into the center of the flower make it look jumbled a little bit, like it's too much going on. So more dots and less lines, and it'll give it that look that you're looking for. So for the majority of the Delphinium blossoms, I waited until they were dry. But in some areas, it was still wet when I went to add in the stamen, and I kind of just leaned into that and let it bleed to just give the illusion that the stamen is there. I thought it actually looked really cool in some of those, especially in those bottom blossoms. But if you want the stamen to not bleed, you'll just need to make sure everything is dry first. And now that we have practiced our Delphinium, I'm adding it to my watercolor flower guide. I did mine at an angle so I could make sure to get in as much of the stock as I could, fill up that space, and I think it turned out pretty good. Thank you so much for being here today while we painted Delphinium on day 27 of our 30 days of watercolor flowers. I loved this one, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow for day 28. Bye.